On my 28th birthday, my family posted a Hawaii trip for my sister with mom's comment, "She's the only one who ever made us proud." I had been paying their mortgage for 4 years, so I opened the bank account, smiled, and clicked withdraw. No one called that morning. I want to give you the specific texture of that silence, because it is not the same as ordinary quiet. It is the quiet of a phone that you keep checking, not because you are expecting an important call, not because anything urgent is pending, but because it is your birthday, and you are 28 years old, and you are sitting at your kitchen table at 7:14 a.m. with coffee that has gone slightly cold, and you are waiting to find out whether the people who are supposed to love you have remembered that today exists. No call, no text. Not even the performative "hope you're doing well" that my sister Ashley sent when she wanted something and needed to establish recent contact before the ask arrived. Just the sound of my apartment, the refrigerator's hum, a car outside, the specific quality of silence that belongs to someone living alone who has arranged their life to be self-sufficient because self-sufficiency was required. I told myself it didn't matter. I have told myself this many times. It is a sentence I am very good at constructing, that I have been constructing for years, that I can produce quickly and convincingly even to myself because I have had a lot of practice. Being the dependable daughter means being needed, not loved. I knew this. I had integrated it. I had built a life around it. Then I checked Instagram on my lunch break. Ashley at the airport. White sundress, pink carry-on, the specific radiance of someone who is about to have a thing done for them and knows it. My parents behind her. My father with his arm around my mother's shoulder. My mother's face bright in the way it gets when she is performing happiness. And the performance is also genuine. The way she looks when something has gone right, when the arrangement she manages has produced the correct result. The caption, "Surprise birthday trip for our sweet girl. Hawaii, here we come." Ashley's birthday is in October. It was March. I sat at my desk with the keyboards clicking around me and the office coffee machine doing its usual mid-afternoon gurgle, and I read the caption twice, and then I read it a third time, and then I scrolled to the comments. My mother's comment, "She's the only one who ever made us proud." I looked at that sentence for a long time. Around me, the office continued being an office. Someone laughed at something on the other side of the room. A phone rang twice and stopped. The coffee machine finished whatever it was doing. I put my phone face down on my desk. Then I picked it back up and opened the banking app. Let me tell you about the 4 years, because the 4 years are what make the sentence "she's the only one who ever made us proud" something other than just a thoughtless comment. They are what make it a specific and documentable thing. My name is Emily Hartwell. I am 28 years old. I work as a project coordinator at a logistics firm. Not glamorous, but stable. The kind of stable that comes from performing consistently and taking on what other people don't want to take on and showing up without requiring management. I am good at my job. I have been good at my job since I was 22 and started it because being good at things was, in my family, the condition under which I was tolerated rather than merely managed. My parents are Richard and Carol Hartwell. My father is 57, a former operations manager at a regional manufacturing company that laid off its middle management during a restructuring 4 years ago. My mother is 55, a part-time dental office receptionist who has worked part-time since I was 12, and whose income has never been the thing the family organized around. They are not bad people in the way of cartoons or villains. They are people who have made consistent choices about which daughter required protecting and which daughter was strong enough to not require it, and who have made those choices for so long they have stopped examining them. My sister Ashley is 25. She lives, or lived at the time of this story, at my parents' house, rent-free, in the bedroom that has always been hers, which she has personalized over the years in ways that suggest permanent residence rather than temporary return. She is not a bad person either. She is someone who has been protected her entire life from the specific education that comes from having to figure things out yourself, and who has therefore not figured things out herself, and who believed, when my parents told her the explanation for why I didn't help more, that the explanation was true. I will come back to that. 4 years ago, my father was laid off. My mother appeared at my apartment on a Thursday evening. This is a specific memory. Thursday, because I had worked late and had a presentation the following morning and had planned to spend the evening preparing for it. She appeared with her face arranged in the expression she uses when she needs something significant and is deploying the full emotional resource of the deployment. The reddened eyes, the slight tremor in the voice that indicates the voice is being controlled, the specific posture of a woman managing her composure in front of someone she needs to persuade. She explained the situation, the mortgage, the gap between my father's severance and the monthly payment, the possibility of foreclosure. Not next month, but by summer, Emily, if we don't do something. The way the word something landed in the conversation with the specific weight of a word that is not quite asking what it's asking. I asked about Ashley. Ashley is too young for that kind of burden, my mother said. Ashley was 21. I was 24. I'm not sure I'm not also too young, I said. You're different, my mother said. You've always been capable. Ashley needs more time. Capable and strong and different. These are the words my family used when they meant the one who can absorb what the other one doesn't have to. I said I would help. $2,400 per month into a joint account that my mother managed, that I had access to but never needed to access because the money went in and the mortgage got paid, and that was the arrangement. I set up the automatic transfer, I reviewed my budget, I canceled the Spain trip I had been saving for. I started buying the store brand version of things. I worked overtime, not every week, but the weeks when the budget felt tight, which was most weeks in the first year and many weeks in the second. I skipped a dental appointment payment in November of the second year because I was $340 short and I needed that $340 for the transfer that month. I found out 6 months later that I had a cavity that had progressed to the point of requiring a more expensive procedure than the cleaning would have cost. I paid for the procedure with my tax return. I did not tell my parents about this, not because I was keeping score. I was not keeping score. I was deliberately not keeping score because keeping score felt like a thing a difficult person did, and I had been told enough times that I was difficult. But because I understood that telling them would produce a performance of concern that would not produce any change in the arrangement, and I did not have the energy for the performance. This was the arrangement for 4 years. The day I opened Instagram and read my mother's comment under the airport photo, I opened the banking app. The joint account balance was $18,000. I want to be precise about what that number meant because it required a moment to process. My father had found work, not equivalent work, a lower-level operations role, but work with income. My parents had, at some point in the last year and a half, moved from genuinely needing the transfers to not genuinely needing the transfers. The transfers had continued because I had set up automatic payments and had not been told that the situation had changed, and they had not told me because they had been saving the money, $18,000 in the account, while my mother publicly declared my sister the only child who had ever made them proud. While using money I had earned on double shifts and canceled trips and a skipped dental appointment to fund a surprise vacation for that sister, I sat at my desk in the middle of the office lunch break, and I felt something clarify in a way that clarity usually arrives. Not all at once, not dramatically, but in the specific way that things become clear when you have had access to all the relevant information for years and have been choosing not to arrange it into the shape that it actually makes. I clicked into the transfer screen. I transferred $18,000 from the joint account into my personal account. I set a note in the transfer field, funds returned to originating account. Then I put my phone in my bag and finished my lunch, which was a sandwich I had made at home because I had been buying home groceries for 4 years while my parents were building an $18,000 savings account with my money. The sandwich was fine. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. My mother's voice had the quality it gets when something has happened that she has not controlled and needs to control immediately. A specific urgency, a tightness that is not quite anger, because anger would require acknowledging that the thing that happened was legitimate, and she could not acknowledge that without acknowledging everything else. Emily, what did you do? I looked at Ashley's airport photo, still open on my screen. The white sundress, the pink suitcase, my parents behind her, bright-faced and proud. I finally stopped making you proud, I said. My father took the phone. His voice had the quality of someone who has been handed a situation that is already in motion and is trying to find the authority position in it. You just ruined your sister's trip. I waited until he ran out of air. He is a man who delivers things in bursts and then needs to pause, and the pause is where the conversation actually lives. Was my birthday even on your calendar? I said. Silence. Just silence. A few seconds of it. That silence hurt more than anything that came before or after it. I want to say this clearly because I think it matters. The $18,000 was a fact. The Instagram post was a fact. The 4 years were facts. But the silence after that question, the absence of an immediate "of course it was, Emily," that has nothing to do with, that was the confirmation that needed no documentation. It wasn't on the calendar. My mother came back. The voice had shifted to the register she uses when she needs to manage a situation that has gotten away from her. Softer, warmer, with the specific quality of someone performing emotional attunement rather than feeling it. Honey, you know Ashley is more sensitive than you. You're stronger than she is. Stronger. I have spent 28 years being told I am stronger. It is the word my family uses when they mean, we need you to carry something. And the way we justify asking you is by framing it as a quality you have rather than a burden we're placing. I'm strong because you gave me no choice, I said, but I'm not your bank anymore. I hung up. Ashley texted me 18 minutes later. A photo from an airport bathroom, mascara tracking down both cheeks in the specific way of someone who has been crying with enough force to defeat waterproof makeup. The caption was not a caption. It was, "You're seriously jealous of me? On your birthday? That's pathetic." I looked at that message for a while. Then I replied, "Ask mom where the money came from." She came back fast. They said dad got a bonus. I called her. I want to tell you about this phone call carefully because it changed something. Ashley answered with the wariness of someone who expects a fight and has already positioned herself for it. Her voice had the tight quality of someone who has been crying and is now holding the crying back with the specific effort of someone who considers crying a vulnerability they've already exposed too much of. I did not fight with her. I told her everything, not accusatorially. Factually, the way you tell someone something when you need them to have accurate information, and the accuracy is what matters, not the telling. The monthly transfers, the amount, the 4 years, the overtime, the dental appointment, the automatic payment I had set up and never been told to cancel because the situation had changed and we didn't discuss it because we don't discuss money in my family. We just ask for it and I just provide it and we don't discuss it. Ashley went quiet for a long time. The quiet had a different quality than my parents' silences. Not the silence of someone managing information, the silence of someone receiving it. They told me, she said finally, that you didn't help because you were bitter I still lived at home. I sat with that for a moment. They told you I was bitter, I said. Yeah, they said you resented them asking because you thought it wasn't fair that I didn't have to contribute. They said it created tension, and you refused because of that. They had not just taken from me. They had taken from me and then told my sister, the sister I was protecting, whose burden was too great to ask her to share, that I had refused, that my absence from the arrangement was spite rather than invention, that the reliable daughter had, in the version they had given Ashley, been difficult. Quick pause. If you want more stories like this in better quality, my Spotify's linked in the description. She's always been difficult. I had heard it my whole life, and had eventually, as you do with things you hear your whole life, started hearing it in my own internal voice rather than theirs. They had used the lie to turn Ashley against me. They took the money, I said, every month for 4 years. Automatic transfer $2,400, while telling you I wasn't contributing because I was bitter. A pause. The account had $18,000 in it when I withdrew it today. They've been saving it. Ashley was quiet again. How much total? She said. $115,200, I said. Over 48 months. I had not calculated this number before this conversation. I calculated it during it, in my head, while I was talking, because I am the kind of person who does this. She didn't say anything for a long time. Then, I didn't know. I know you didn't, I said. I thought you just... She stopped. They always said you were fine, that you preferred to do things on your own. I was doing things on my own, I said. Their mortgage, and my things on my own. That evening, I drove to my parents' house. I want to be precise about why. Not to shout, not to perform the anger that I had not allowed myself to feel during the office lunch break or during the phone call or during the drive over. I drove there because I needed to look at them directly. Because I needed to be in the room where the conversation happened and not have it through a phone screen, where things can be ended and managed and redirected. Because I needed them to know that I knew, completely, and that I was not going to absorb this the way I had absorbed everything else. The folder was on their coffee table by 7:30 p.m. 48 months of bank records, the transfer confirmations, each one with a date, an amount, and account designation. Screenshots of the text messages my mother had sent, the ones about the mortgage being in default, about the late notices, about the specific distress she had performed across the years to produce the specific response, the balances in the joint account over time, which told their own story about when the need had stopped being need and started being savings. I placed it on the coffee table the way you place documentation when you want the documentation to be the statement rather than the preamble. I'm not asking for all of it back today, I said, but you'll sign a repayment agreement, or I talked to an attorney about options. My mother gasped with the specific quality of someone who has deployed gasping as a response to uncomfortable information for so long it has become reflexive. You would sue your own parents? I looked at her. At the woman who had typed the words, "She's the only one who ever made us proud," into a public comment section, while I was sitting at my desk on my 28th birthday, having received no call or text or message of any kind, having worked overtime the previous week to make sure the transfer went through on time. No, I said. I would protect myself from people who forgot I was their daughter. The front door opened. Ashley walked in. I had not known she was coming. I had not called her after our phone call that afternoon. I had driven to the house because I needed to be there, not because I had organized a confrontation. She appeared in the doorway in the white sundress she'd been wearing in the airport photo, which she had not yet changed out of, and she was carrying something, her plane ticket. She set it on the coffee table beside my folder. "I'm not going," she said. My mother's face went the color of the cream-colored couch she had always been very particular about. "Ashley," my mother started. "I'm not going on a trip you paid for with Emily's money," Ashley said, while she was at work on her birthday. The room was very quiet. My attorney is named Patricia Osei. She has been practicing family and civil law for 16 years, and she was referred to me by a colleague at work who had used her during a difficult situation and described her as the kind of attorney who doesn't let you leave her office without understanding exactly where you stand. I called her the morning after the coffee table conversation. She listened to the full account, the transfers, the amounts, the timeline, the shift from genuine need to accumulated savings, the discovery of the $18,000 balance, the withdrawal. She asked 4 clarifying questions, each one precise, none of them requiring me to explain anything twice. "The joint account," she said. "Were you a co-holder?" "Yes," I said. "My mother and I were both on it. I set it up as a joint account specifically so I could monitor the transfers. Then the withdrawal was entirely within your rights," she said. "The money was yours in the account." A pause. "The question of recovery for the prior transfers is more complex, but not without options. Do you have documentation of the expressed need, the communications about foreclosure, the stated reason for requesting the support, screenshots of every text where she described the mortgage situation?" I said. 47 messages over 4 years. Patricia was quiet for a moment. "Emily," she said, "that's very thorough. I'm a project coordinator," I said. "I keep records." "Keep them," she said. "All of them. I'm going to prepare a demand letter. It won't result in litigation immediately. The goal is to establish that you are serious and that you have documentation, which changes the negotiating position significantly." A pause. "What outcome are you looking for?" I thought about this. "A repayment agreement," I said. "Structured, with terms. Not the full amount necessarily. I understand there are limits to what's recoverable and to what I can actually prove in terms of intent, but something formal. Something that says, this happened, it was documented, and there is a record that exists." "That's achievable," she said. "Give me a week." Patricia's associate, a young attorney named James Whitfield who was 7 years out of law school and had the specific focused energy of someone who takes the documentation of things seriously, seriously because he has seen what happens when documentation is absent, handled the research and the letter drafting. He called me twice with questions, both times at precise times he had given me in advance, which I appreciated in the specific way of someone who values people doing what they say they will do. The letter went out on a Monday morning. My parents had a 1-week response window. The week between the letter and the response was the hardest week, not because of the legal uncertainty. Patricia had been clear about the likely outcome, and I trusted her assessment, but because of what happened in that week with Ashley. She called me 3 days after the coffee table evening. "Can I come over?" she said. She came over on a Thursday night and sat at my kitchen table, and I made tea, because that is what I make when something needs to be talked about without the conversation being rushed, and we talked for 2.5 hours. She told me things I had not known, the way my parents had framed my absence from family gatherings I hadn't known about, the things they had said about my choices, not cruel exactly, but consistently diminishing, the specific language of people who need one child to seem smaller so the other one can seem larger, which is a math I had not understood was happening because I was too close to it. She told me she had been told when she was 17 and I was 20 that I had become difficult and self-focused and had pulled away from the family, that the distance she had observed between us was my choosing. I believed them, she said. "I know," I said. "I shouldn't have," she said. "I should have called you. You were 17, I said. "I was 20 when they took the first transfer from you," she said. "I wasn't 17 when that started." This was true. I sat with it. "I need you to understand something," Ashley said. "I didn't know what they were doing, but I also didn't ask. And not asking," she stopped. "Not asking was a choice, even if it didn't feel like one." I looked at my sister across my kitchen table, at the person who had arrived in my understanding of my family as the one who got more, who was protected from burden, who was given what I wasn't, and who was sitting here now, having canceled a Hawaii trip and set a plane ticket on a coffee table, telling me that not asking had been a choice. "Yeah," I said. "It was." "I'm sorry," she said. I believed her. Not because the sorry resolved anything. Not because 4 years of transfers and overtime and dental appointments and canceled trips could be resolved by a 25-year-old sitting in my kitchen apologizing for her parents' decisions. But because the sorry was genuine, and genuineness is rare enough that I have learned to receive it when it arrives. "What do you want to do?" I said. "Going forward." She thought about it. "I want to know you," she said. "The actual you, not the version they gave me." "Okay," I said. We talked for another hour after that. The repayment agreement was signed the week Patricia's letter arrived. My parents retained their own attorney, a man named Gerald Park, 12 years in civil litigation, who called Patricia's office the day after the letter and who, from Patricia's account of their conversation, had clearly reviewed the documentation I had provided and had advised my parents accordingly. The terms were not the full amount. That was not the realistic outcome, and I had not expected it to be. What was agreed upon was a structured repayment of $44,000, approximately 38% of the total transferred, over 4 years, with a formal acknowledgement included in the agreement that the funds had been received as financial support and not as gifts, and that the originating party had received no compensation or recognition for the support provided. That last clause was Patricia's addition. "It doesn't have monetary value," she said when she explained it to me, "but it's in the record. If this ever comes up in an estate context in any future financial dispute, there is a document that says what happened." "That's what I wanted," I said. "The record." The Instagram post was deleted sometime in the 5 days between the coffee table conversation and the signing of the agreement. I did not ask about it. I did not comment. I noticed its absence the way you notice the absence of something that had been in a space and has been removed. Not with satisfaction exactly, but with the specific recognition of a correction being made. The Hawaii trip was canceled 6 months later. Patricia and I had a brief call to close the file, in the formal sense, to confirm the first payment had arrived on schedule, and the agreement was being honored. It had. It was. My office desk looks the same as it did on the afternoon I opened Instagram and read my mother's comment. The keyboards click. The coffee machine makes its mid-afternoon sounds. My phone sits face up on the corner of the desk. The difference is what's on the phone. Ashley texts me on Wednesdays, usually something small, a photo of something she saw, a question about a recipe, the kind of ambient contact that is the actual texture of a relationship rather than the special occasion contact we had been having before. We had coffee last month, and she told me about a job she's applied for. The first time she's talked about work with me in a way that suggested she wanted my opinion rather than my approval. I did not offer money. She did not ask. My parents and I are in the specific early stages of something I am not going to call reconciliation, because reconciliation implies returning to a prior state, and the prior state was the problem. It is something else. A new arrangement, more honest about what it is and what it isn't, with a formal document in Patricia Ose's files that describes exactly what happened and what was agreed to, in the plain language of people who have decided to be accurate about a thing rather than comfortable about it. My mother has not commented on Instagram in a way that required my attention since the post was deleted. My birthday this year was acknowledged. A phone call. In the morning. I did not cry about the phone call. I have been telling myself for years that the phone calls don't matter, and this year, for possibly the first time, I believe it. Not because they don't matter in the abstract, not because the question of whether your parents remember you is a question that ever fully stops mattering, but because I spent 4 years arranging my life around the belief that being needed was a substitute for being loved. And the thing that is true about that belief is that it is very efficient. It organizes everything. It tells you what to do and when. It removes the question question of whether you are wanted by replacing it with the question of whether you are useful. The thing that is false about it is everything else. I am not a bank. I am not the strong one by nature or by grace. I am the one they gave no choice to. And in the specific, quiet morning of a 28th birthday that began with no call and ended with a withdrawal that they heard across a city, I chose differently. I chose myself, and my hands did not shake once.